The year is 1945. World War II has ended. The lovers are reunited. Peace has finally been achieved. What a wonderful time to be alive! Japan is taking over Vietnam, and the world is about to get very, very cold.
NANI?!
This was Japan, the land of sushi, anime, and samurai. However, the country lacked natural resources, so in World War II, they pounded their way through East Asia in search for raw materials. In 1945, they took the French colony of Vietnam, and the situation sort of played out like this. But then Japan had to leave because America had forced the emperor into surrender. With East Asia in utter destruction, a leader by the name of Ho Chi Minh rose to power. And boy, did he have a dream of reuniting Vietnam under his reign. Ho Chi Minh was an absolute follower of communist ideals, and he was in love with what he saw in China and Soviet Russia. Coming out of a humiliating defeat in World War II, France wanted redemption, so they decided to assert their own leader who would represent Western ideals in southern Vietnam. In comes Emperor Bao Dai. Ho Chi Minh was the founder of the Viet Minh, or the League for Independence of Vietnam. This coalition was formed originally in 1941 to repel the Japanese. Now the members strive for an independent country, free from French imperialism. The region Vietnam resided in was known as Indochina under French rule. Initially, the French staged peaceful talks with the Viet Minh. All seemed to go well, declaring them a free state within the French Union. Troops from France would slowly be removed within a span of 5 years. However, the French desired absolute power over the regions, whereas the Viet Minh wanted independence. French intentions were clear. Cochin China, southern Vietnam, was declared an autonomous state, basically stating that Cochin China is now a state within the French Empire. Peace talks between the two sides failed, and on November 23, 1946, 6,000 Vietnamese civilians were killed in a French naval bombardment at the port city of Haiphong. The First Indochina War had begun. However, the biggest mistake made by the French government was being unable to see its colonies desiring freedom, and freedom they will have. Pockets of resistance appeared throughout Indochina, and with the Communist Party defeating the Nationalist Party in China, Vietnam received the full backing from the People's Republic of China and materials from the Soviet Union. On May 7, 1954, the decisive victory to end the long 8-year war happened. At Dien Bien Phu, the Vietnamese army broke through French lines and laid the city under siege for 4 months. The French surrendered and negotiated for peace, another humiliating loss. At the Geneva Convention, Vietnam was split at the 17th parallel line, with the Democratic Republic of Vietnam in the north and the Republic of Vietnam in the south. Elections were to be held in 1956 for hopes of reunification. However, those dreams would only come true in 1976. Remember our good friend Emperor Bao Dai? Well, our man is having the time of his life. Without much reparations from the French defeat, he became the leader of the Republic of Vietnam. Oh wait, sorry buddy, you just got cooed by the US-backed anti-communist Ngo Dinh Diem. Don't worry son, we'll coup you later on. Now that's foreshadowing. Emperor Bao Dai is ousted, and Ngo Dinh Diem has set up his American-backed anti-communist regime in South Vietnam. In the north, Ho Chi Minh has fallen ill, and his successor, Le Duan, has now taken control of North Vietnam. With two new players in this political struggle, both hoping to unite Vietnam under their personal rule, the option of war was once again present. Compared to northern Vietnam, southern Vietnam was extremely corrupt, and one of the major playing factors in this was religion. You see, Ngo Dinh Diem was Catholic, and he disliked the majority of people who were Buddhists in Vietnam. As a result, many defected to the north. However, a reign of terror soon descended upon southern Vietnam. Plagued by paranoia, Diem was constantly afraid of potential coups and communist spies within his realm. In fact, the situation became so out of control. This is pretty much the simplified version. Communist, 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 communist! Around 100,000 people were killed during this reign of terror by Diem, and as a result, he alienated himself more from the general public, and more people defected to the north. The last straw of Diem's antics came when Diem massacred the people at the May rally celebrating the birth of Buddha in 1963. As a result, U.S. CIA intelligence staged a coup d'etat against Diem and his brother, resulting in both being assassinated by CIA-backed generals. Communist! 3 weeks later, President Kennedy, the man who ordered Diem's assassination, met the same fate. Some speculate it was the Diem family who hired Cuban assassins to take out Kennedy. Shortly after Kennedy's death, the Gulf of Tonkin incident occurred, where 3 Vietnamese torpedo boats engaged the USS Maddox. Soon after, President Lyndon B. Johnson achieved the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which gained the president's authorization to increase U.S. military aid in Vietnam. As a direct result, Operation Rolling Thunder commenced with regular U.S. bombings over North Vietnam. For the next 2 years, between 65 and 67, America would kind of just go bombs away on northern Vietnam. Then there was the incident of the Battle of Le Drain Valley, where both sides declared victory because both sides eliminated 60% of each other's supplies. The northern Vietnamese were sick of being bombed by the United States, so in 1968, using the Lunar Year holiday, Tet, they staged their offensive. This would be known as the Tet Offensive. On the morning of January 30th, 1968, the northern Vietnamese attacked the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, the major city of Hue, and Khe Sanh. U.S. and southern Vietnamese forces fought fiercely to protect these strategic points. Ultimately, they repelled the attackers due to superior mobility, soldiers, and the MVM and Viet Cong forces being spread out too far. Just a little too wide, brother. In the aftermath, the U.S. and southern Vietnamese discovered the atrocities committed by the North, such as the massacre of Hue, where thousands of civilians were killed due to fear that they were potential spies. Although it was an American Allied victory, America's invincibility had been shattered. Honey, holy, what happened to you? The American public was outraged after witnessing what happened during the Tet Offensive. The promise from President Johnson stating that the war was to come to end soon seemed to only be a government lie. Another contributing factor that questioned America's ability to win the war in Vietnam was the introduction of the CIA Phoenix program, a search and destroy program used to rat out potential spies and Viet Cong members amongst the civilians. The biggest issue the United States Army faced was that the Viet Cong were capable of using stealth and the masses as their camouflage, and identifying potential threats and secret informats was especially hard for U.S. personnel in this foreign nation. Later on, the Phoenix program would be criticized for targeting civilians more than soldiers, and the methods of torture were beyond humane. It's the 1970s now, and the American public has gone whack. People were sick and tired of this long, drawn-out war. Cambodian campaigns allowed the U.S. and South Vietnam forces to capture Cambodia and destroy parts of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. However, U.S. intervention dwindled soon after as student protests increased and domestic violence skyrocketed. Between 1969 and 1972, the process of Vietnamization began with the withdrawal of troops from Vietnam and with the improved relations between the U.S. and Soviet Union and America winning the space race. Both sides needed to cut back on military spendings. With the days of victory long behind, the U.S. decided to go on one last offensive. The North captured the city of Quang Tri, Com Tum, and Hue. However, the U.S. and Southern Vietnamese pushed the North back to a stalemate, with both sides eventually exhausting each other out. Peace talks began in Paris, and in 1973, America signed the Paris Peace Accords, stating that America will pull out completely out of the Vietnam War. Skirmishes between the North and the South continued until 1975, when Saigon finally fell. The dream of Ho Chi Minh had become a reality. Vietnam was finally reunified under his party. The Vietnam War claimed the lives of 58,000 American soldiers, 600,000 plus NVA and Viet Cong soldiers, and a whopping 2 million civilian deaths. Although the communist regime claimed victory, it was the citizens who suffered the pain and brutality posed by the political ambitions of the United States and Soviet Union in their Cold War.